want to say welcome back, Nuri Muhammad. I Never Knew TV for the second time. All right. We're going to get right into this, right? I heard you once say, we know how to make money, we just don't know how to spend it. Black people blame white people for 95% of our problems and still spend 97% of our money with them. Can you elaborate on that comment, please?
That's exactly, we're real close to the quote. I think I said that we've got dollars, but what we need is cents. You know, when you count the mathematics and look at black people as a nation, there's 233 independent nations on the earth. Out of the 233 independent nations, black people at $1.3 trillion are the 8th richest nation in the world. Yet, we don't have anything in our community that we can call our own. So by the simple fact that we're the 8th richest nation on the earth and we don't have our own educational system, don't feed ourselves, grow our own food, is a sign that we got dollars, but we need some sense. So I said we blame the white man for 95% of our problems, but we still spend 97% of our money with them. That's bass accurate, if you count that.
And what's wild to me is that, like, I just observe life as it is. So every city I go to, I'm here in Indianapolis, right? And when I look around, I see black people suffering. But then on the other hand, people tell me black people are doing great. And sometimes I think they distort their position for the masses of the people.
Well, the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad made this revolutionary observation about how to properly judge the rise or the fall of us as a nation. He said, no one individual can rise above the condition of their people. So you never should judge the individual few poster child mannequins in the storehouse of democracy's window, Negroes that have made it to justify that we have made it as a people. We do have $1.3 trillion in money. That's income though, and that's not wealth. So when the math is calculated, black people only possess less than 2% of the wealth of the United States of America. Income and wealth are two different concepts. Income is the money you earn by exchange of your time or the sale of a good product or service. But wealth is when you exchange that money for something that either keeps value or increases in value over time. Black people, we are the leaders in unnecessary spending. We buy stuff we don't need from people that we don't like to impress people we don't know. And at the end of the math of the equation, we end up having nothing but a whole bunch of name brand stuff, but never businesses that we can pass down to our children or real estate that increases or keeps its value over time. So we've got income, but we don't have the wealth. That's why I said we've got dollars, but we need some sense. Out of that $1.3 trillion, Brother Lynn, do you know that we spend $23 billion a year on clothes, $11 billion a year on furniture, $3.2 billion on keeping up with the latest cell phone that came out, $46 billion on cars, $60 billion on legal and illegal drugs, $32 billion dressing up the outside of our head. But when it comes to dressing up the inside of our mind, which is the purchase of books, only $300 million is purchased in books. That would be fine if God said in Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed from a lack of sew-ins, or my people are destroyed from a lack of temple tapers or fades, but my people are destroyed from a lack of knowledge. So we should be investing more in the building up of the mind and building up of our character, getting the sense that we need to go with those dollars, so that when we marry our wealth with some wisdom, we can actually leave something behind for our children and our children's children that they can call their own.
I'm glad you said that. I have to put myself out there before I criticize anyone, right? When I was younger, based on my environment, it's a learned behavior. I'm ashamed to say this now publicly, but I thought I had to spend money. I really thought I had to spend money. Like if I had $100 in my pocket, I thought if I went out, I had to spend $100. I'm not sure if you had that mind frame younger on.
Well, I did too. You know, unfortunately, black people's brains have been hardwired where we connect happiness to spending. We have to disconnect the wire in our brain from happiness and spending and take from happiness to saving and happiness to investing. Do you know that rich people stay rich because they pretend to be poor? And poor people stay poor because they pretend to be rich. We spend money. We literally are trying to buy respect, and we go broke trying to look rich. So when the math is done, I was talking to a brother in our barbershop one day, and I was telling him that when you have enough on the inside, you don't need the stuff on the outside to make you feel like you are something. And the brother, look, he verified the position. He said, you know what? I'm gonna tell you the truth. Me and my guys was out. We went to out of town, and we was on our way to go to the club. And whenever we start getting dressed, my partner realized that he had left his jewelry. And the minute that he seen that he didn't have his jewelry, I noticed that he got sad. And he didn't even go with us. Next day, I went down to the counter at the hotel room, and he was opening up a package. He had somebody overnight his jewelry to them. And when he grabbed the jewelry out, he took his watch, his chain, and put it on and told me, hey, I'm back. But he never went nowhere. Problem is that he felt a sense of worth from what he put on the outside of himself. But the real sense of worth doesn't come from the jewel you put on your finger, your wrist, or your necklace. The real sense of worth comes from the jewel you put in your mind with knowledge, wisdom, understanding, discipline, and character. So that we got it all twisted, and just like you, we had our brains hardwired improperly, where we connected the wire from happiness to spending instead of to saving and investing. And unfortunately, we have outsourced our happiness. We're looking for happiness to come from other people and other things in the outside material world, when the truth is happiness is an inside job.
And we on the same frequency already, even though it's the first question, right? I wanted to bring up one of the issues I have with everyone speaking about financial literacy. They break down the theories of things to invest in, but they don't talk about the internal things that needs to be done for you to be financially responsible.
So financial literacy is learning the alphabet. Financial literacy is learning phonics. You're learning how to sound out words. But when we were in school, they had another part of all the tests called reading comprehension, which means that I know how to properly dissect, discern, and make decisions based off the information in front of me. So we need the ABCs, we need the phonics of finance, but we also need to learn how to understand finance, comprehend it, that we can use it in the real world. So that's what you're saying. It has to go to another level where we learn how to use a dollar.
But even more than that, Brother Muhammad, is dealing with the insecurity and the ignorance that fuels us spending. That is what's not being touched on.
Well, that's, as we said earlier, see, the less you have inside of yourself, the more you think you need outside of yourself to make yourself feel like you are something. But if we began to really baptize our mind into a thorough knowledge of ourself and began to feed our mind scriptural wisdom about the greatness of the original people and the power we have, the fact that we are the direct descendants of God himself. We literally are children of the Most High God, born with God's genetic makeup, holy heredity, and divine DNA. Prosperity is built in our plasma. When you start learning the rich legacy of where we came from, not just historically, but scripturally, then you start operating in the world where you have so much inside of you that anything you add to the outside is just a bonus, but it doesn't define you as who and what you really are. This literacy thing, financial literacy, it is good, but it has to transfer into wisdom and understanding of finances. In my meta-analysis of over 100 books on finance and investment, etc., I found that white people teach their children not just financial literacy, but teach them financial understanding and financial comprehension. And the general rule that you'll find that most Caucasian and wealthy people teach their children is to follow what's called the 10-10-10-70 rule. 10% of your money you should give to a cause you believe in, charity. 10% of your money you should save, put it in a savings account for yourself. The other 10% you should develop an investment fund to figure out how you can find something to make your money work for you instead of you working for your money. And then the rest of your life should be lived off that 70%. And I've also found that you'll see that wise people, they do not buy something once if they can't buy it twice. And if we started following that 10% charity, 10% investment fund, 10% saving, living off of 70%, not buying something once if we couldn't afford to buy it twice, we'll find that we are putting ourselves in a position where we always have cushion capital to deal with the problems of life, and we will not be engaged in this excessive unnecessary toil that comes from poverty. We'll be able to have a freer mind, less stress, and be able to have access to our creativity, find our purpose, fulfill our purpose, and get some real joy and happiness out of life.
You need to talk about this cushion and how it minimizes stress. That's like the most important thing with your bread. Like, you have to always have a cushion because it keeps your stress level down.
That's right. You have to buy peace. Buy yourself some peace. See, the excessive toil that comes from poverty produces an undue amount of worry and pressure on your mind about what's going to happen today or tomorrow. And that's the difference really between life's negatives being defined as either a problem or a situation. See, if you have one of life's issues that show up that cost $1,000 to repair and you got $10,000 put up, that's not a problem. It's just a situation. But if you've got $1,000 issue of life that shows up that you need to repair and you only have $800, that's not a situation. Now you got a problem. So the blessing of resources is not what you can get with it that you want. The blessing of resources is not having to worry about fixing whatever you need to fix when you need to be able to do so. So, that's what cushion capital is. And I learned that from that meta-analysis. And I've tried to operate where I set aside resources so that when a circumstance does show up, even if I don't have it in my operational budget to handle it, I'll borrow money from myself at no interest and pay myself back. And keep it moving. So that's a mathematical equation. We have the dollars, but we don't have the cents. Do you know that with $1.3 trillion, we are richer than Spain and Mexico? Spain has 46 million people just like us, but they're maintaining a 208,000 square mile landmass where they have their own educational system, their own government. They have their own world with the same amount of people we have with $600 billion less money. Mexico, $637 billion is what they bring in a year. But they're maintaining a 761,600 square mile landmass with 130 million people. Now, they're not living up to the standard that you might want to live up to. But don't tell me that they got 3 times the amount of people as us and half the money, and they have their own nation. We got double their money and only literally a third of their population. What should we be able to do for ourselves? We should stop, Brother Linton, spending so much time trying to repair the system. And let's take the resources that God gave us in our capital and in our wisdom, marry them together and stop trying to repair, and let's do our job to replace. That's what God wants us to do. He doesn't want us to keep on fighting to repair a system. He wants us to take ownership, leadership, rulership, and replace it with something better.
Can you explain to me, what does plantation psychosis mean, and how does plantation psychosis show up in the present day lives of black people in America?
Well, what is a psychosis? When you break down the word psychosis etymologically, the suffix osis means a mental state of disturbance or a mental state of unhealthiness. And then psych, of course, means mind. So a psychosis is whenever your mind is in a state where it is disturbed, disrupted, and is not functioning in its proper state. Well, most psychosis, according to the world of psychology, are products of trauma. And trauma is negative events that have a damaging effect on the psychology of a group of people that can even be passed down generation to generation. So when you see people that come out of Desert Storm, or you see people that come out of an abusive relationship, or children that were in a home watching a man abuse their wife, they suffer from that trauma and they develop what's called a psychosis. Plantation psychosis is psychological damage that's caused from the trauma of plantation life. As a people right now, there's a book out called Slavery, the African American Psychology and Trauma by, I believe his name is Sultan and Naima Latif. But in the book, they do an assessment interviewing people currently operating in America, black people. And they found that 94% of the decisions that black people make today are rooted in plantation life. And only 6% of the decisions that we make came from our God-centered African. I said 94%. That means that when it comes time for us to pick the food that we're going to eat, we don't pick the food we ate when we were in the motherland. We pick the food we were trained to eat on the plantation. When it comes time on how we are going to relate to our women, or the women relate to their men, how we're going to raise our children, we're not following the marital relationship program that we had in Timbuktu, the Nile Valley civilization, or the city of Atlanta. We're following what we learned from the plantation. Almost all of the decisions that black people currently make right now are rooted in plantation life, which means that we are free, but we are thinking like a slave. And since it is written in the Proverbs that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. We are what we think. Our life is really our mind turned inside out. And if we are thinking like a slave, even though we are quote unquote free, we are still operating on a plantation, even though it's a portable plantation that we're carrying around with us in our head. So that's the plantation psychosis. You can look back at all of the things the slave master used to force on us, and you'll see us voluntarily choosing to do it now. Forced us to eat swine flesh. Now we buy pork, and then we got the audacity, Brother Lynn, when we get the foot sitting out of the greens. Do you know greens are weeds? The only reason black people ate greens on the plantation is because they were weeds. And the master didn't want us to get real vegetables, so we took the weeds growing around and we boiled them and put the meat that they gave us and tried to make it taste good. But we got the audacity to call the cornbread and the yams and the sweet potato and the greens and the pig foot we got the nerve to call that soul food. It ain't soul food. That's slave food. Soul is the essence of God deposited in a human being. You don't feed God in you with a pork chop. You feed God in you with truth and with spiritual wisdom. You keep going. Look at, do you know on the plantation there were 3 things made illegal? One was to pray, one was to read, and the other was to marry. So today on the plantation, because it was against the law for us to marry, oh, look at how bad it is right now.
We gotta get into that later.
Come on now. I mean, look, we back then they used to have to they made a law to keep us from getting married. But it's so bad now you almost got to make a law to get a black man to marry a black woman. So on the plantation, since it was illegal to marry, we used to sneak when we fell in love and jump over a broom. Why? Because Master didn't let us get married, but Master loved for us to sweep his porch. So we had the broom, so when he wasn't looking, we would show our love and jump over the broom. Go to any marriage in the black community right now. I don't care how sophisticated it is, $25,000, $50,000 ice sculptures everywhere, petals falling out the sky, coming in on a horse, and we still jumping the broom. Why? Plantation psychosis. We were branded yesterday, now we tattooed up today. It was illegal for us to read yesterday. Now, there's a saying, the best place to hide something from a nigga is to put it in a book. How do they know that? Because they know black people don't read anymore. You can keep going down the list. The names that we wear are not our names. These are the names of our slave masters. They didn't give us their surname to make us a part of their family. They were identifying us as a piece of their property. Now here we are, free people still walking around in their names. What religion did they impose on us on the plantation? See, if your slave master wasn't a Christian, would we be a Christian? We say we wouldn't be one. So we were given their name, their culture, their religion, their mores, folkways, norms. Now we are operating in that system. We have a damnable disease of plantation psychosis. And you'll find that when you research a psychosis, that it can be passed down through blood. And watch this. Guess what I found out? That there are certain drugs that can activate psychosis that is inside of the DNA of a human being. Such drugs are cigarettes, alcohol, marijuana, and many different prescription drugs. They can actually activate the psychosis. So you look at the condition that we're in, and we are a victim of a mental damage that has caused our mind not to operate in its normal state, that came from a trauma on a plantation in 1555 up until the time of Emancipation Proclamation. And we are still being triggered today by that trauma and still operating 94% of our decisions from a plantation, and only 6% is coming from our God-centered original African culture we had before we were kidnapped and Caucasianized by this enemy. So that's where we're at. But there is a cure for it. You know, one of the great slave makers is a man by the name of Willie Lynch. You can Google the Willie Lynch letter, and then you can look at his slave-making system. Inside of Willie Lynch's slave-making system, listen to these words. It's a section called the warning of the possibility of what he called interloping negatives, meaning of 2 or 3 things that could happen that could be negative to him as a slave maker, but positive for us as a slave. He said this, he said, the mind has a way of correcting itself when it is connected to a substantial amount of historical base knowledge and the slave is left alone. So the minute that we can get away from all of the spiritual, economic, and social systems that we were put in by our enemy and have our mind left alone and then began to connect it to a substantial amount of historical base knowledge, which is deeper than regular black history. See, black history is not base knowledge. It's just a little bit of history. You notice that whenever they celebrate black history, it's always from the plantation to the present, from the cotton field to the current. They never go back before slavery. They only want us to know about the accomplishments of a slave under their slave master, because whenever the math is done, when we start looking at ourselves from the cotton field to the current, or plantation to the present, we were in burlap. So now if we got a little Gucci on, we think we really came somewhere. We lived in a mud hut then, now we got an apartment, we think we've come somewhere. We were working for free from can't see morning to can't see night. Now we're getting $8 an hour, we really think we've done something. And next thing you know, we'll start talking about we started from the bottom, now we're here. No, the real truth, if we were to take our mind and get a substantial amount of historical base knowledge, going way beyond plantation and cotton field, way beyond slavery, go into Timbuktu, go into the Nile Valley civilization, and then take it even farther than that. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. We the first people to ever exist, not only under the sun, but even before the sun came into existence. So when you get back deep into that kind of knowledge before slavery, then you'll have a mind that will correct itself. And the next thing you know, you would have accidentally on purpose cured your plantation psychosis. And we'll stop operating where 94% of our decisions are based upon plantation life. Instead, we'll have 100% of our decisions coming from our God-centered nature and the way we used to be before we were kidnapped and westernized and Caucasianized by our enemies. That is what must happen if we want to see ourselves up and free. To change a law here, to change a rule there, to drop somebody from the east side to the west side, to give somebody a promotion and on this, that's not going to change our condition. We have to change from the mind. Every voluntary act of the human body first starts off as a thought. That thought then encourages the body to engage in the appropriate muscular activity that matches the nature of that thought. So if you really want to change someone, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it like this, you have to change the way they think. And once we change that, the diameter of our thinking will change, then we'll see the circumference of our activity begin to expand, and we'll begin to have what we talked about earlier, a nation of our own. Not trying to repair, but strong enough to actually replace.
I want to talk about how men and women differ and what they want from a spouse. I heard you once say men need love. Men need to love their women and women need to respect their men, right? One of my teachers, who was also a mentor, Dr. Arthur Sutherland, told me the same thing. Even though the statement is true, right? It really shows why we have so many relationship issues in our community, because truth be told, and I've heard this from women, women are directly and indirectly taught not to respect black men.
Well, and that is again, if you want to go back, those in our viewing audience, go back and look at the Let's Make a Slave document that comes from the Willie Lynch program. You know, Willie Lynch in 1712 was hired by the slave makers and masters of America to figure out how they could get greater productivity out of their slave and have less loss of life. And when he came, Willie Lynch told the slave makers here that I have in my bag a foolproof plan, that if you employ it and you work it successfully for 1 year, the slaves will become self-refueling or self-perpetuating for 300 years, maybe even 1,000. And he outlined a number of natural differences that we had among us as a people, and he converted them into unnatural divisions by perverting them. He talked about age, put the young against the old, old against the young, small plantation against the one on a big plantation, vice versa. One of the other ones, though, big one, put the male against the female and the female against the male. So this gender war that we see being waged in social media between black men and black women, you didn't start that, black man or black woman. This was started by our open enemy to try to suck us and keep us disconnected from one another, because he knows that our power base has always been being together with one another. When Napoleon was hired to go and destroy all of the African and great images of black excellence all over the world, he's the one that destroyed the Sphinx, trained his cannon and blew off the nose and the lips of the Sphinx, because the Sphinx is a lion with a head of a black man on it. But if I knock the thick lips and the broad nose, you won't be able to see the African black features, and you won't know that this was a black man's head. And we'll miss the message that our ancestors was trying to send. What were they saying? Lion is the king of the jungle. I'm going to put your head on the king of the jungle because I want you to know down the line of time that you are the king of this universe. So when he went inside of that great pyramid gizzard that the Sphinx sit at the base of, this was a pyramid we built. I'm talking about, this is when we were a proud, powerful, pious, and productive people before we came to America. We knew how to make things happen. We knew how to live. We knew how to eat. We knew how to parent. We knew how to do all of the things we're struggling with now. Whenever we were in the motherland, we handled ourselves appropriately. So we built this pyramid gizzard, 451 feet tall, 451 feet deep into the earth. It covers 13.5 acres of land made of 1 million stones that are made of gold, marble, or granite, each one of them weighing 3.5 tons apiece. Every stone is stacked mathematically precise, north to south, east to west, up in the air, down into the earth, not even deviating 1 square inch. And we built it without John Deere or a caterpillar, not even a bulldozer. We used the power of psychokinesis or telepathy or the power of our mind over matter to move that stone. That's how great we used to be. When Napoleon went in there, look what he found. He found, and you can see it now in Giza, when you go and see the great gods on the wall, Osiris, Osah, Ilida. When you go see these great gods, you'll see next to them where it looks like somebody's been scraping whatever was by them. You know what it was? There never was an image of the male god Osah without his queen Aset. There never was the great Osiris without his queen Isis being right by his side. There never was Alafun without his queen Ilida being right next to us. What was the message our ancestors was trying to tell us? That the real power base of us as a people is family. So this gender war that's going on is a manipulation of our enemy to keep us from coming together. Why did Osiris always with Isis? Why was Alafun always with Ilida? Why was Osah always with Aset? It's because we are not independent as a black man or a black woman. We are interdependent, meaning we rely on one another to get power and strength. We are born of God to be each other's soundboard, to bounce ideas off of, and you give back my idea with that feminine touch. I give back your idea with that masculine touch, and we have a balanced idea when we come together. So this mathematics of loss of respect for the black man is a way of attacking the man at his very nature and causing us to have that perpetual self-refueling disunity from one another. How do you know? Because in the Bible, there's a book called Ephesians 5:33, where God lays out gender-specific commands on how a man can get the best out of a woman and what does a woman need to do to get the best out of a man. Look at what it says to the men. Men, and you must love your wives as you love yourself. And wives, you must respect your husband. 2 different verbs. Man, to get the best out of woman, love. But woman, if you want to get the best out of man, respect. Now, both men and women need love and respect. But respect to a man is water. Love is food. Both the woman needs love and respect, but love to a woman is water and respect is food. You see what I'm saying? So that mathematics has been corrupted. And because our women have been taught and trained, and this is the way it is. So in this world, in the social, political, economic system, the black man is the last hired and the first fired. But in the social system, the black woman is the last married and the first divorced.
I have a theory, right? And just work with me on this. I think it's a conspiracy theory with the social media thing. I don't know if it's like COINTEL Part 2 or something, because, all right, I noticed early on in Hollywood movies, right, specifically Eddie Murphy movies, the men were never family men. They were always womanizers, right? Specifically black men. They did it with white men too, but the white men had more of that family structure in the movies than the men. Obviously, we have it in the music, right? But what I notice now is that even with the algorithm, like you can put up a video right now saying something crazy about black women and it automatically gets traffic. You can put up a video right now saying something crazy about black men, it automatically gets traffic. Yeah. Anything you say promoting marriage, stability, fatherhood, motherhood, there's no traction there. And this is what's happening is that the people are seeing it and they're doing it now to kind of benefit from it, not understanding that they're spreading that message.
Well, that's a very good point. See, the enemy, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad described the rulers of this world. He called them scientists of evil. Scientists don't get into hoping and wishing. They get into the law of cause and effect. What can I do today that produces a certain result tomorrow? I remember that I was listening to the minister describe an experience he had as a young man in the 70s, where he was in Jamaica with Brock Peters, and they were filming a movie, and a Jewish producer, a white Jewish producer, came to the minister and told him, I want you to know that it's not you that we fear, it's your ideas. Then listen to this power play, this arrogance. He says, I want you to know this, that we meet once a year, teachers, music producers, movie makers. We meet once a year, either in an apartment on Park Avenue or somewhere in California, and listen to what his words are, and we discuss trends, and we determine how we want trends to go. And after they have that meeting, they leave the meeting with a goal. What is our goal? If it's to destabilize the black family, if it's to weaken us, if it's to keep us from being able to connect to each other, where we can turn our homes into spiritual recharge centers, where we can extract love, peace, and power from that environment and go out and conquer the known world. If whatever their goal is, they make trends. So I don't think that you are inaccurate in your analysis of the fact that they are, in fact, trend setting, trend making, and they are manipulating the algorithm to make something look more popular than another thing. Because guess what happens to people? Most people follow whatever is popular, not necessarily right or wrong.
That's the problem.
Did you see the little experiment that the young brothers did the other day on social media to show how easy it is for people to just follow what everybody else is doing? They went to 5 locations, and all they did was just start running. As soon as they started running, they was in the airport, they were in the mall, they were out at the park. They just start running, not saying nothing, just running and looking over their shoulder. Everybody. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teacher, Master Fard Muhammad, he said this. He said, people are like fish. They travel in schools. So if you can turn the head, you can turn the whole group. So we're not in this condition by accident. We're in this condition by design. So there is a scientist, or there are scientists of evil that are literally manipulating not just algorithms, but they're manipulating what is shown to us on a day-to-day basis. I challenge every one of you in the audience that turn on your regular TV today, and I want you to flip to any channel you want to flip to and show me one commercial ever aired on any day where they have a regular, strong black man on it.
You know what they're doing right now? I notice it's interracial commercials now, right?
That's what you're either going to see, a black man with a white woman and he's punctified.
Yeah, or homosexuality.
Or he's going to be a black man with another man. Or he's going to be a real soft, weak black man. But you won't find a regular, strong black man. Not on one commercial. I've been watching them for over 3 months now just to see if I can find one. I don't care whether it's in insurance, whether it's a prescription drug, whether it's advertising a program, whether it's selling a product. Never do they ever put an image of a strong black man in front of the world.
Is this the last push? Because I know obviously systematically things have been put in place to dismantle the family. But is the final push to psychologically push this image or push this hate towards, because it's mental warfare at this point. This is beyond legislation. Yes. You get what I'm saying? And everyone has this device in their hand and they're seeing this every single day.
It's a form of menticide that has been in operation for a long time. They just have more access to it. See, one of the great blessings and cursings of technology, technology eliminates space and time. It makes you're able to be somewhere that you're not. and you can do it in the twinkling of an eye. So now that there are more tools and resources available for them to use to carry out their mentor side, they are able to do it more on a larger level. So I wouldn't say or want to say I don't have the authority or confidence in my assessment to say it's the final push, because it's been the push.
I shouldn't have said final.
Well, but it has been the push.
It's a big push right now.
And they know, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And what happens to people is whatever you see in your timeline, whatever you see on social media, whatever you see in a movie or on a television program, tell a vision. What is a vision? A vision is someone's image of the future. I'm telling you your image of the future. Most people think when they see something in their timeline or see something on YouTube or see something in a movie or a show that is the way things are. But it really isn't the way things are. It's the way they want things to be. But because we're watching it thinking that's how everybody's getting down, then we start thinking we're behind time, so let me step up and get into this madness and be like this. So it is a very, very vicious cycle that has proven to work. It is psychological programming that is taking place. It is bending reality in the future by making you think reality is already bent in the present.
Say that again for those that didn't hear.
I said it is bending reality in the future by making you think that reality is already bent in the present. So you start thinking I'm behind. Let me catch up too. No, it's a trick. It's a ploy. And I'll say this to my sisters and my brothers, that one of the concepts that I try to remind myself moving through this world of propaganda, and I say this to myself consistently, I will not allow my self-image or any other perception to be shaped by non-scriptural concepts. That means that there's nothing that I can see, experience, or hear from anywhere else that I will allow to override what God Himself has already said about who I am and what I can do and what I can have. And the minute that you make your mind up that you are going to allow your self-image, your self-worth, your potential to be defined by what God said about you and not what nobody else says, then you will always be able to have a checkmate on the propaganda machine of this world. No matter how much they try to bend you, you'll always be on the straight and narrow and on your square. So that's a concept that I challenge us to get. And of course, in order for you to have a scriptural concept, that means you have to get into the scripture. You have to actually read what God said about man. He said we're in the image and likeness of Him. That means that everything that's true about God is true about you. If you're in the image and the likeness of God, when God looks at you, He sees Himself. Problem is, when we look at ourselves, we don't see Him. If we're image and likeness of God, whatever God can do, we can do if we put our mind to it. How did He do it? He said, let there be light. He said, let the stars adorn the heaven. He said, let the firmament cover the earth. He said, let us make man. He didn't hope or wish. He spoke it into existence. And He told us that in the book of James that the power of life is in and death is in the tongue. We have to use our mouths better instead of allowing someone else's mouth to affect us, whether it's social media, whether it's a commercial show program. No, look, your profession will produce your possession. Speak it and watch you be able to be it. Words are powerful. Words don't just describe reality. Words, by the law of substitution, have the ability to create a reality. So God said, say, when you are sick, say that you are well. When you are poor, say that you are rich. Even though I'm not that, I'm speaking it into existence. So we're in a war. It's a mind war. They're trying to get us to accept a weaker, less powerful version of ourselves, because in their heart, they know that everything that they have allowed us to get involved in with the least amount of hindrance and suppression, we have taken it over and become the master of it. Whether it was basketball, football, whether it was golf, any field of human endeavor they allow us in, we become the masters of it. So they want to keep us in a position where we think less of ourselves, because the less you think of yourself, the less you expect from yourself. The less you expect, the less you do, the less of a threat you are to them. We have the power. We are the people of God, direct descendants of God. All 99 characteristics or attributes of Allah found in the Holy Quran are human characteristics inside of every black man and black woman. Everything you read about God is also true about you. We can make anything happen if we put our minds to it. They know that. And that's why they have what you would consider to be this conspiracy. It is that, because a conspiracy is whenever two or more people work together for underhanded, undermining plot. That is what they are doing. But we can check plantation psychosis and cure it, and we can put at bay all of the self-destructive, self-defeating commands they're trying to install in us to make us less than what we are. If we take in our mind that my self-image will not be shaped, nor any other perception, I will allow none of that to be shaped by anything other than scriptural concepts, we'll be all right.
All right. During our last reasoning, right, you said something that really impacted me. You said, whatever you do to get a thing, you have to do to keep it, right? You said it in the context of marriage, but it's a universal concept that applies to everything. Can you speak on how to maintain your level of input to maintain your level of output over a long period of time? I want to start with marriage first.
Well, of course, when we broke that down last time, I think we were dealing with the aspect of marriage. We do a lot to get someone to the altar, and we do a good job of courtship before marriage, but we don't do a good job of courting after we do get married. So whatever you do to get a thing, that's what Big Mama said, that you have to keep doing the same thing to keep it. So in marriage, look at how patient we were as men. Look at how much we bit our tongue. Look at how compassionate we were. Look at how considerate we were. Look at how many doors we opened. Look at how much we asked, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What do you want to eat? And that became the order of the day. Look at all that compromise. As a woman, look at how much effort you put into the meal that you provided for him. You would bring him the meal while he was at work. Full course meal to show him that I love you and I want you to be my man. Look at how well as a sister you took care of yourself. Think about what you did before marriage. Them last 3 months before you were getting walk down that aisle. You had 2 bites of an apple and 1 cracker for 3 months straight just so you could fit into that dress. Look at the kind of etiquette and the care, the consideration. Look at the care you put into yourself. Look at the care we put into them. And if we return back to the original value system we employed to win each other, to keep each other, we'll always be happy. And you'll find that as you begin to treat each other the same that you treated to get them, you'll find new ways to love the person that you're with.
And Brother Muhammad, it's a universal law, right, that can apply to everything. I just want to touch on this marriage thing. I know for me personally, what has helped is being thankful and showing gratitude. What I notice is that with men and women, things become normalized.
Yeah.
And you lose that gratitude.
Yeah. And you teaching, brother. And I'm going to say this. The minister made this statement about love. He said, love anticipates need. So when you love someone, they shouldn't have to ask you for or suggest to you. Love anticipates need. That means that as a man, I'm always studying my wife to see what it is that she would like, what it is that she would want. And I'm taking notes as we move through life to figure out what it is that she said she liked or wants. And whatever it takes for her to get it, I'm getting ready to work on trying to get it. I'm going to tell you something, brother. When a man is in love with a woman, her needs and wants become his goals.
Facts.
So you always are studying. And then likewise, if you are a woman, if love anticipates need, if you love your husband, don't wait for him to ask for it. Study what he likes. Study, be observant of what it is that touches his heart the best, that eases his mind the best. Take notes and begin to keep that cycle in motion. And then in doing so, you're putting love into its proper place, and that's not a statement or a word. It's an action. It should be a verb. And once we live love and practice love by anticipating needs, always studying, then guess what happens? We begin to become happy based upon our mate being happy. You start getting more joy out of doing something for them that made them happy than anything you could have did for yourself to make yourself happy. And when two people are really competing with each other to see who can out-honor, who can out-love the other, no one ever has to sit back and complain about what somebody's not doing for them. Number one, because both people are focused on doing something for the other one, and they are both satisfying each other. That becomes a very, very healthy relationship. So that's that principle, as you said, whatever you do to get a thing, you have to do to keep it. It's universal for everything. You'll find that when a fighter falls off is when that fighter stop doing what he used to do. See, when you first start fighting, you're humble and hungry. That's what you are. You humble and hungry. I'm hungry. I want a title. I want a belt. I want to start getting the big fights. I want to start winning them big purses. But I'm humble enough to recognize that I got to get my skill up. So you train harder, train longer. But the minute that you see somebody get that championship, win a few bouts, get them big purses, next thing you know, they're involved in more recreational work than recreational work. They stop hitting the gym like they used to. You'll see them walking around sloppy and partying all the time until a couple of months before their next fight. Then they'll try to tighten it up. But that's not how you used to be in the beginning. You were humble and hungry. That's the kind of spirit we should have. Unless you want to become a champion at one of the things you're striving to achieve in life and end up falling off. Now, if you want to remain a champion, you got to keep doing what you were doing. Whatever you did to get it, you got to keep doing it. You got to be humble and you got to be hungry.
How did you keep your focus when, even though I don't like using the word success because you're in the ministry, but I guess I'll use it still, right? How did you stay focused and stay humbled and keep the work ethic when you started to experience success in your work?
I feel so much like a filthy rag, to be honest. I don't feel like I am worthy of even what I have received. So I feel like that every time that Allah allows something that we do to have a positive impact on people, we say all praise is due to Allah. And when you literally mean that, you know that it's not you, it's Him. And He's using you as a vessel. And then you start asking yourself, oh man, what can I do to improve myself that I could be a more qualified vessel for Him to use me even more and better? And that keeps you in that spirit where you are always positively dissatisfied. And dissatisfaction, so teaches the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, leads to change. So you are ever evolving because in your mind you don't feel like you deserve what you have. It is really all praises due to Allah. And I want to do more to qualify myself to be a vessel that He can use me more and better. So that keeps you humble and keeps you hungry. And if you stay like that, always striving to improve yourself. I told somebody just joking the other day. They said, "What's your new goal you on right now?" I said, "Well, my goal is I'm trying to be 16 by the time I reach the age 50." They said, "Well, what are you saying?" I said, "I'm trying to be 16 by the time I reach the age 50." So that's what we were promised. in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he told us that the hereafter for my followers is now. And one of the rewards of the hereafter, in addition to peace and contentment of mind, luxury, money, good homes, friendship in all walks of life, as the Quran calls it, gardens wherein rivers flow, which means unlimited progress, pure companions, meaning that your family, your friends, you got good, strong love around you all the time. Good people, people that you are around that love you, that you love, and you all love what y'all do together. That's a good thing. But one of the other things he said is that we will be as though we were 16 years of age again. So I said, man, I'm going to see if I can engage in a regimen of self-improvement, studying, prayer and fasting, exercise, spiritual discipline, that by the time I reach the age 50, I can say based off of all my stats, my blood work, that I'm 16, even though I'm 50. So that's kind of, really, I feel like that I have received much more than what I deserve. So I'm not celebrating because I feel like I earned it. I'm really like, man, I don't even deserve this. I got to catch up in my self-improvement. I got to catch up in my work to match the blessings that the God has bestowed on me. So that's kind of, I would say, my mindset, and whatever little success that Allah has blessed me with, I believe that He's given it just for me to be as an example to show other people that came from the same condition, same walk of life, and committed themselves to doing right, to let them know that you can do it right and still get all the stuff that you thought you only could get by doing it wrong.
What is the reason you believe the Bible and the Quran discourage sexual intercourse prior to marriage?
Well, my teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, made this statement, and it stands true. He said that physical contact with the opposite sex, sexual intercourse, has a blinding quality to it. So the minute and this is the mathematics of the mind, however high the emotions are, the logic and the reasoning is on this equal opposite extreme.
Facts.
So if my emotions is at a 9, my logic and reasoning is only at a 1. If my emotions is at a 7, my logic and reasoning is only at a 3. So the minute that males and females get involved physically with one another, the emotions that come from physical intimacy and sexual relationships takes you up to 7, 8, 9, 10 emotionally. But it brought you down to 1, 2, or 3 logically and rationally. And feelings are not facts. Facts are facts. So the minute that you began to engage physically with someone, you now have your vision blurred in being able to see some of the red flags that you would have been able to see.
Messes up your judgment, man.
So it hinders your judgment, and even in the relationship, we have something called a courtship process. And we encourage brothers and sisters to not only interact, not physically interact sexually, but don't even be around the person you're thinking about marrying alone. So we do all chaperones. Yeah. We going with you to dinner, to the movies. We don't have to sit right there with you, but we know that the law of nature will override written law, even if the law written was by God Himself. So you get two people all alone together that love or like each other, next thing you know, you'll find them into a compromising situation. So during the courtship, not only do we not allow sexual contact, but no real contact at all. And then we tell both of them, don't give gifts to each other because you're in courtship. court, and you are judges. If you were in court and you gave the judge a gift, wouldn't they consider that bribery? So don't bribe the judge. So we don't even give gifts to each other whenever we're courting. We don't even be around each other without some chaperones to help supervise and keep natural law from coming into contact. And I'll say this. There was a couple that I was counseling one time that were having very serious problems. They had many children later on, but they always had problems. And something dawned on me. I just asked the question. There's no law involved in the answer. Let me ask you a question. Were you all physically intimate before you got married? And they both looked down with shame and said yes. I said, I'm going to ask you one other question. If you all had not been with each other sexually, do you still think you would have gotten married? One of them said yes and the other one said no. Look at that. That means that two people came together. One of them came together out of just guilt alone, not out of, I feel like this is the mate I'm supposed to be with for the rest of my life. The other one said, I felt like you were supposed to be the one. We did that, but I still would have married you. Now, the multiple children later, they're not together because they didn't start it off right.
I've heard you say this, right? One of your lines, you always got these lines. Mistaken lust for love. And I think that when you when you have sex prior to like marriage, in retrospect on my life, as you said, it distorts everything. But a lot of times being truthful with yourself, the thing you think is love is actually lust. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people when they get into these relationships, especially if it's good loving coming from the lady or the male, you know?
This is something that we have to get back into the science of. You know, whenever white people in America had, quote unquote, let us free through Emancipation Proclamation, one of the first meetings they had in Congress was they discussed whether or not they were going to allow black people to go to colleges, universities, or get higher learning. They came to the conclusion in 1867, yes, we will allow them to go to colleges and universities. They just have to go to their own, not ours. And look at this, number 2, there's 3 things that must never be taught in none of their schools. That was the science of warfare, the science of finance, and the science of mating. Mating meaning what? Picking the person you're going to call your husband or wife. And of course, when 2 people come together, they produce offspring. So on one side of mating is mate selection. On the other side of mating is parenting. Look at the problems that black people have right now. The worst problems. Warfare. We kill each other more than the enemy kills us. 95% of all black people that die from a homicide were killed by another black person that either knew them or loved them at some point. We don't know warfare. Science of finance, we talked about that earlier. Blaming the white man for 95% of our problems, still spending 97% of our money with him. We buying stuff that we don't need with money that we don't have from people that we don't like to impress people that we don't even know. $1.3 trillion making us the 8th richest nation in the world, yet we don't have anything we can call our own. We don't know the science of finance. And look at our divorce rate. The black male and female divorce rate in the United States of America, we have a 75% divorce rate. That means for every 4 couples you see today, tomorrow 3 of them won't be together. That's a horrible stat. So when they imposed that, extracting that science from it, we lost the ability to know how to do it properly. We have to be retaught and retrained. That's why this courtship that I talked about that we do is good. I have a book that really has been a great tool used by many people. It's called Before You Say I Do. See, you need to know a process and the kind of questions that you need to ask in order for you to make a good decision. You know, we put more effort and energy into buying a car than we do into picking a mate.
You know, my good friend Beers, we were having a conversation. He's big on arranged marriages. He thinks it's irresponsible of the person and the family to allow a 20-year-old, 25-year-old to make that decision to impact the bloodline. But some of the questions we spoke about in regards to before you say I do was history of mental illness, sexual abuse, how they respond to anger, their relationship to finances, how much debt do they have, their ambition. There are a lot of things we don't consider when picking our mate, and it's just looks and sex.
Right.
And I don't want to say they're the most pointless things, but they're things that
it's way down the list.
It's down the list, bro.
But in honesty, shouldn't you be smart enough at 20 to know how to pick a mate? Let's think about this for a second. Do you know that in our history, all the stuff that we read about King Tut, did you know King Tut was the ruler of the most powerful nation on earth when he was 13?
I wasn't aware.
King Tut was ruling Egypt at 13. He was at 7 when he was in training for the post. And by 13, he was already psychologically equipped. And this is the man that fought off the Goths, the Visigoths, the Anglo-Saxons, the nomads, the Vikings, had the most powerful nation. He was running that at 13 years of age. Abraham, when you read about all the stuff he did in Scripture, shutting down the idols, he's called the father of the righteous. Do you know Abraham, when he destroyed the idols in the temple, was a teenager? David, when he slew Goliath, was a teenager. Look at Jesus. It says that whenever his parents found him, he was sitting at the foot of the elders, learning and teaching them. So at the age of 12, the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Jesus had already finished all of the schooling that he had available at that time. He was a master at a young age. Master Fard Muhammad, the teacher of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he said that he was 6 years of age when he seen himself pushing the DuPonts and Rockefellers into a lake of fire. The father of the white race, a man named Yaqub, 6 years of age playing with 2 pieces of metal. At the age of 18, he had 60,000 followers go with him to the island of Pilan to start his eugenics process of grafting from black to brown, brown to yellow, yellow to white. At 18, I'm saying all of that to say that if we were to adopt the kind of proper training that we should, that a child shouldn't be a child at 20. They should be a full-grown adult at 12, able to make wise decisions. We should see some King Tuts, some Abrahams, and some Jesuses, and some Davids walking around. And I guarantee you, when the mind is developed like that, they will be able to choose their mates wisely. Problem with us, I know this might hurt a few people's feelings, but women are better at relationships than men. And it's because they've been practicing longer than we have. Think about this. When we were little, as a boy, all we do is run around the neighborhood, play, and break stuff. But whenever little girls are coming up, they're playing house, dress up, tea parties. They have dolls, changing diapers, strollers. So they're practicing motherhood, homemaking. And I don't know, on the East Coast if y'all had in Berlin, but there's something called an easy bake oven. Oh, them cookies, them sugar cookies from the easy bake oven's on point. But look at what they're doing. This is what little girls had. So now here's a little girl that's been practicing being a wife and being a mother. She started at 2 doing it. Now she meets her man at 25. She got 23 years of practice of being a mother and a wife. But the young brother, all he's been doing since he was 2 is playing and breaking stuff. So he got practice playing and breaking stuff. Those 2 people come together. She's ready to be a mother. She's ready to be a wife. But the brother, he's ready to play and break stuff. So he ends up playing in the relationship and it ends up breaking. So we should be psychologically equipped. We should be intelligent enough and developed enough that we can choose the proper mate with love, yes, but also with some knowledge on what you need in order to be a good man and woman. But if a man doesn't know his job description, and neither does she, and if the woman doesn't know hers and neither does he, how do you have a yardstick to measure of comparison? That's how you get into somebody saying, my list, this is what I want out of a man. He got to be 6'2", dark skin, bald head. Watch out, Brother Linton. Watch out now. Dark skin, bald head, 6'2", six-figure income. See, all of that stuff should be way down the bottom of the list. What are the spiritual traits that this man possesses?
When did that delusion start, though? I think it's
Again, I'm telling you, we never were taught the science of mating.
Because I never heard, like, growing up, unless I was out the loop, I never heard anyone really break down a list like this. And the issue I find with it is that it's so delusional and it's so uncompatible. Like, why would a person who has those qualifications be interested in you when you have none of those qualifications?
But even if you do, see, you're putting physical above mental and spiritual. So we are a tripart being. We're mind, body, and soul. But the greatest part of us is not the body. We're not a body with a mind and soul in it. We really are a soul and mind with a body wrapped around it. That the real us is the essence of us. So in our book, Holy Quran, there's a chapter 33, 35th verse. There's a layout of 10 spiritual characteristics that you should have as a believing man or a believing woman. That should be at the top of your list. It says the believing men, the believing women, sacrificing men, sacrificing women, charitable men, charitable women, the patient men, the patient women, the honest men, the honest women, those who seek their Lord. So the spiritual characteristics should be at the top of your list. Now you come down to the characteristics of their personality. See, you want somebody that likes what you like. So you go through spiritual, now you got personality. Then if you got any room to start adding some physical stuff to the equation, you can. But don't ever allow the lack of the physical when someone meets up to the mental and spiritual to be a deal breaker. No, the physical is very, very low down the list. And we found, and I learned from my teacher, that there's a law of compatibility. You can determine whether someone is compatible for you. When you make that proper list with the spiritual and the mental and personality and then the physical, if you see someone and you're talking to them and they meet up to 70% of what you see as an ideal man or ideal woman, then that's a good chance that you're compatible. Our problem is that we find somebody and they only meet up to 30%. And then we think we're going to be able to love them in a way that the other 70% is going to manifest. If you meet somebody and you got a list of 10 and they only 3 of the 10, you didn't marry a partner, you married a project. And you don't want to marry a project. You want to marry a partner that can help you with some projects, not one that is a project themselves.
I'm glad you said that, because there's this myth that opposites attract. And you see it doesn't make sense initially in a relationship, and you see it really when another person starts to grow in the relationship, right?
But opposites should be in temperament. Yeah. See, you know, the Holy Quran says it like this, and the male and the female are a cover for one another. So wherever I protrude, you might dip in. So I'm the kind of person that's very quiet and soft-spoken, but you're very outgoing. Now, guess what? I can learn as the outgoing person that sometimes get myself in trouble for being too outgoing. I can learn to modify that from you. And you can learn by someone that has been what you call an introvert. You can learn from me that maybe I should be a little bit more outgoing. And the next thing you know, see, a husband and a wife really should be students of one another. I'm studying the characteristics and the gifts in your personality that you were born with or that you developed over time, and I want to incorporate them in me. And she's doing the same. That's how two people become one. They don't become one because they slept in the same bed together and held hands for 40 years. They became one because I learned from you. You learned from me. I adopted the best in you. You adopted the best in me. Now when we move around, we operate the same. So that's the spirit. So the temperament, you can find some opposite in that. But man, if you find someone and you're in the health and they're not, how are y'all going to have a good relationship?
I think that's what's happening a lot. It's just two extreme worlds trying to come together.
But if it's not, see, this is why the physical stuff. See, once you take marriage, look at the synonyms for marriage. It's called a holy matrimony. It's called a covenant connection, a sacred union. Look at the terms: sacred, covenant, holy. These are all spiritual, highly spiritual terms. But when you start getting into just the physical and what he can buy and what she can do for me and how she looks, when you get into that, you have turned yourself and each other from being he and she to being it's. And man is not a human ATM machine, a personal security guard. You see what I'm saying? And a handyman that you hire. And a woman is not a pleasure box, a personal chef and a maid. Yet a good woman does know how to cook good food. A good woman will make sure that their home is a good, clean environment, and a good woman is the greatest comfort and consolation for a hard-working man. A good man is going to make resources and income and make sure his family is taken care of. He's going to protect his family, and he's going to take care of whatever they have as a possession in fixing and repairing. So those are job descriptions, but that's not the spiritual stuff that's going to make. I'm going to say this. They did a study on relationships in 2012 where they interviewed all over the world couples that were happily married for 65 plus years. And they wanted to find out what was the commonality among them. And what they found after they interviewed them is that all of them were friends of one another. They didn't just love each other, they liked each other. So what they found is that friendship is the longevity ingredient that makes people stay together and happy together. So if you have somebody and you don't have a lot in common with them, how are you ever going to be friends? See, a friend is somebody you like being around, that you like doing stuff with. But if they don't like doing what you like doing, how will you ever have that kind of compatibility? So I hope that we can change it, because we need to learn that science of mating. These are some very good first steps on getting that science of mating back that will allow us to become what we used to be. Do you know that in 1867 that they did McKinley Irving Law did a report, and they went back to look at the marital status of black people? This 1867 is technically only 2 years up from slavery. Guess what they found? That black people, all black adults, 90% of all black adults were married. 90%. And almost all of them stayed married to the same person for the rest of their life. So you had 90% marriage ratio with a nearly 100% success. Now, only 4 out of 10 eligible adults in the black community are married, and only 1 out of 10 is actually going to make it with the one that they're with. So the math is messed up. We need some teaching and training, and we need to create a better system of mate selection. We got to put those spiritual traits, those mental and personality traits. Then if you got any room for the physical stuff, you can put that down there. But you want those to be at the top of your list.
We got to touch on what you just said, because a lot of people like to argue that slavery destroyed the black family.
Well, it was designed to do that.
Yeah.
It was designed to do that. And in a sense it did, because if I'm breeded, see, think about that. Here's a man that's breeded with another woman. They don't have no love for each other. All the slave master knows is you are a strong stud man and you are a fertile black woman. Throw them together inside of the horse's stable, mate with each other, no love between you all, have a baby, You go back to your plantation as a man. You come over here, and I don't want you to produce for a son or a daughter. I want you to make me a new slave. So now the man, made a breeder, never is allowed in his mind to even think on being a father, because he know he won't even have access to his child. The mother in her mind is never even given the permission to think about having a healthy relationship with a man that's going to look out for her, because her man's never going to be there. The slave master will be. I'm not making a son or a daughter. I'm making a machine or a tool for my enemy to use as a slave. That does have great psychological damage on us. So in that sense, making us breeders is part of the reason why we have such a absent daddy disorder. That's the real ADD that's in the black community. Absent daddy, ADHD is absent daddy from the house disorder. We got a lot of that going on. But part of that is because we're still under that plantation psychosis. We're breeding still. We're making babies, but not taking care of the babies that we make. So in that sense, it did have a destructive effect on the family. But go back to when we had Black Wall Street. See, doing segregation, black people had bus companies, cab companies, dry cleaners, restaurants, banks, schools. Why? Because we had to have them. During slavery, even though they went to destroy the family, we had to be together and stay together because we couldn't go nowhere else to get anything else. The minute that they allowed black people to start shopping in white people's stores and sleeping in white people's hotels and riding in their cabs, all of ours went out of business. So it was with us. The minute that we were allowed to integrate into society, we start putting less value on the real black family, and we start venturing off into this rugged individualism that has us operating in a gender war that was started by Willie Lynch in 1712, not by two people on YouTube that look like you and me.
I heard a speech from 1985 where Minister Farrakhan shared a vision he had of him entering a mother wheel, right? What many will call a UFO. I also heard him referring to the mothership on numerous occasions. When Farrakhan speaks about the mothership, is it a metaphor for the fall of America?
It's a reality for the fall of America, and it has some metaphor to it when it comes to our ability to advance and rise above civilization. But the wheel is real, and there is a mother wheel. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it's a man-made planet, and it has 1,500 bomber planes. They called them UFOs in the past. Now they call them UAPs. But when they interview the world right now, they found that.
Could you explain what's a UAP for those unaware? I never heard that term.
Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
All right.
That's their new term that they have slapped on it instead of unidentified flying object. But when they polled the world a few years ago, they found that 89% of the planet believes that there are UFOs and there is life outside of the life on this planet. And they believed that the United States government was then and is now engaged in a cover-up. There are about 35 nations that have already agreed to expose their top secret files on these UFOs or UAPs. This is real. These are real. See, the enemy doesn't want us to think about the prospect of us or there being something in the world more powerful than them. They want you to see the F-52 bomber and the jet moving at the speed of sound and see the Air Force and the Russian military and think that they're the all-powerful. But the minute that we are made to know that there's a power in this world from God that's real, with real machines that will trump their power, then we begin to see them in a different light. I'll just say this. It'd be good for the viewers to get the book Message to the Black Man and crack open and go to page 290 and start reading about the wheel and the dynamics of how it came into existence. Do you know that in 1993, the FEMA has in their fire manual a section on chapter 13 dealing with how to respond as a fire official to a UFO?
That's wild. I didn't know that.
It's in chapter 13. Look at some of what it says. It says, if you see a UFO, make sure that you do not stand under it if it is hovering low. Do not attempt to touch it, because radiation could come from it, as it has been known to do before and burn you.
That's the word then?
The exact wording, as it has been done before. So they're saying, look, we ain't telling you what we think. We're telling you what we know. We've seen people that have gotten close to these UAPs or UFOs, and they have gotten close to it and they end up getting burned. Not it could happen. This has already happened before, but nobody ever talks about it. But you can turn on TV and you'll see shows called The Strange Universe, and sightings of, it's millions of sightings a week of these objects. The question is, who is guiding them, who's on them, who's their friends, and who's their enemy? Well, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that these objects are of divine, connected to Almighty God, Allah, and they are the friends of the oppressed, friends of the original people that have been suffering. Us, they are our friends. So when we go, I'm not telling you to try to get close to it, but I promise you, because they are our friends looking out for us, they came to destroy our enemies and provide us an exit strategy to save us from this world. When we go, we probably won't get burned like they did. We'll probably get embraced by our brothers and our sisters that might be guiding those wheels. Now, there is a spiritual side to it. See, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said about this mother of wheels that it hovers above our head 40 miles, that it can come into the Earth's atmosphere every 6 to 12 months, and it can extract from the Earth's atmosphere oxygen and hydrogen and use it as fuel and never have to come back in sight for another 6 months to a year. That it can move in any direction at 9,000 miles per hour, that it's a half a mile by half a mile, and it's shaped oblong like an acorn. Do you know that in the 30s, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was drawing a picture of the wheel and what it looked like on the board as he was teaching a lecture? When he left and came back the next day, the FBI had come in and took it, because they know. They know. And I don't have all my notes in front of me to break it down to you, but check it out. Check it out. But at 40 miles above civilization. See, this is also spiritual. That's how our mind should be. We should be above civilization. Notice that every rich and powerful person, whenever they go to get them an apartment downtown, where's that penthouse? It's at the top. You go to a hotel and check in and tell them you want the presidential suite. Where's it going to be? It ain't going to be next door to the gift shop on the first floor. It's going to be at the top. The mayor's office, top floor. Why do all the rich and the powerful want to be at the top? Because the higher you are up, the more you can see. The higher you are up, the smaller things appear to you. The higher you are up, you can maneuver things differently in your mind because you have what they call the bird's eye view. Well, when you get the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad into your head, when you get that proper knowledge of self, God, the time and what must be done, knowledge of the enemy, it begins to raise you in intelligence. And the more you're raised in intelligence, the higher you up. You go to that penthouse suite. You go to that presidential suite. You get to be on the top floor in the government building. And then at a certain point, you'll be 40 miles above civilization. Now you get up that high, guess what you can do? You can move in any direction you want to move at 9,000 miles per hour. You can get anything done you want to get done because you've got that bird's eye view. You've been raised in wisdom. And each of these bomb bomber planes. There's 1,500. Look what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said about them. He said they have 3 bombs apiece on them. And every bomb has on it a drilling mechanism and a timing device. They only land on cities. And when they drill down into the earth and go in, they go down 1 mile deep, and the timer goes off and they blow up and raise a mountain 1 mile high. Well, guess what? When you begin to be raised in wisdom, you can go out and start dropping that truth on other people. So now I can say, I learned this wisdom, and now I drop this bomb on you. It goes down into the mind 1 mile deep. Well, 1 mile deep in the mind is the subconscious. And it goes in the subconscious and blows up a mountain 1 mile high, meaning what? I'm bringing everything that's been buried down in you up to the surface where you can see it, handle it, deal with it. So that's a spiritual metaphor concept of the wheel. But the wheel is real. Those bomber planes are real, and they are operating with 2 natures. One, to destroy our enemy, and the other one to provide exit strategy for us when the time is right.
I want to talk about the importance of having faith, right? How do you keep faith doing the work you do and knowing what you know about the world? That's what people don't understand. The more you learn about the world, sometimes, it makes things a little struggle sometimes. But how do you keep your faith?
Well, faith, is such a powerful tool and a gift that Almighty God Allah has given us. It's so powerful, Brother Linton, that in the book of Matthew 17 and Luke 17, listen to what Jesus says about faith. He said, if you had the faith, the grain of a mustard seed. Now, a mustard seed is only 1 to 2 millimeters. Most people black people, we ain't seen no mustard seed. We seen a Big Mac seed, though. That sesame seed. So a sesame seed is 3 to 4 millimeters. So when you say mustard seed, you're saying half the size of a sesame seed, half the size of one of them seeds on top of that Big Mac. If you have faith half the size of one of them seeds on top of a Big Mac, you can say to the sycamore tree, be uprooted and put over here, and it would be so. You can say to the mountain to be removed and cast into the sea, and it would be so. Then look what it says. If you have faith the grain of the mustard seed, nothing shall be impossible to you. So faith is so powerful that when you have it, it turns you into an unstoppable human being. What is faith, though? Faith is optimistic future focus. It's your ability to see in the future and be positive in the present about what you see. That's why you ask, how could someone live in a world like this, as crazy as it is, with stuff going haywire, and we fighting almost, it seems like a losing battle? How do you keep your faith? It's because I walk not by sight, but I walk by faith. See, if I'm walking by faith, I'm engaged present day activity. I'm walking. But my mind is not on today. My mind, faith, future focus. I'm thinking about what's going to happen in the future. And I'll tell you a secret. I skipped to the end of the book and I found out what happens. The righteous win. We're going to be back on top again. So our future is bright, even though it might seem to be grim. Our future is bright. So there are certain passages that I try to keep in the front of my mind to help, check my own stinking thinking. There's a verse in the Quran that says, and when Allah's help and victory comes, not if, when Allah's help and victory comes, and thou seest men entering the religion of God in companies. See, that's large amounts of people coming to what's right at a certain time period. So because we know that there will be the kingdom of God will be established on earth, that there will be a hereafter. God said that he was going to make the bottom rail the top, the least the most, the last will be first. The stone that all the builders rejected will become the cornerstone of a new world. Well, here we are, black people in America. We are the last. We've been the least. We are in the back. We're at the bottom. We're going to be at the top. And we're the stone or the people that all other people have rejected. But God's going to make us the cornerstone of a new world. So I would love for that to happen in my lifetime, but there's no guarantee that it will. So this thing that we're involved in is like a marathon relay race. Long, long run, but you also in a relay might be passing the baton. I hope that our generation will be able to break the tape and take our victory lap and say that tyranny, oppression, strife, poverty is over, and the way of good and right has become the order of the day. But if we don't get to break the tape, we still have our assignment. Whether we the second leg or the third leg, we got to run our race with everything we have. And if it means we got to pass on the baton to the next generation, let's pass it on with a nice lead. Let's pass it on doing our part, making up ground. And if we do get a chance to break the tape, man, I can't wait to take that flag and throw it on my back and go walk around the thing and point up in the crowd at my mama and everybody, tell them that we here, it's done. So that's kind of the spirit we should have. Faith is a very powerful tool and gift from God to us, so powerful that you could say to the sycamore tree, be plucked out and go here, mountain be removed, cast in the sea, nothing shall be impossible unto you. That's how powerful faith is.
And I brought it up, right, because you always hear about black people and faith. I think a lot of people in this time, unfortunately, don't have faith. But I think faith also, we spoke about earlier in regards to lowering stress. I think true faith coupled with work is good for your mental health.
You teaching, brother, because see, the scripture says this, faith comes from hearing, and hearing from the word of God. So you say, well, most people don't have faith. Why? Because fear comes from hearing, and hearing from the word of man. So we listen to too many intellectual and organized opinions from regular people that has us in fear. But if we would disconnect from the social engineers and the opinion of the world that comes from man and start feeding our mind on the thus saith the Lord, then our ear would be the organ of salvation that will give us faith. But right now, if we listen to man all the time, our ear has become an organ that gives us fear. And because of that, worry is it's one of the branches of fear. And a lot of us, really, worry really is spending mental currency in advance of something that may not even go bad in the future.
A lot of times it ain't play out like that.
It's not even going to happen like you thought it was going to happen. But so what are you doing? You're paralyzing yourself in the present by being pessimistic about what's coming in the future. And I say this, the word optimist is someone that sees things positive, right? Do you know that the word optometrist and optimist come from the same word? So if I go to an optometrist, I'm going there so that he can help me see correctly. But if seeing correctly is an optometrist and seeing things positive is an optimist, and they both come from the same world, what does that say? That to see things positive is to see things correct. But to see things negative is seeing things incorrectly. No, look, all things work for the good, for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So even what you think is a negative in the present has a way of producing a positive outcome in the future. So that should calibrate our mind where we never allow ourselves to be down, stressed, too worried. No, don't spend that mental currency in advance of something that you paying for it in advance, and it may not even be like that in the future.
Please tell us about the story of you being jumped in Chicago while trying to stop a man from physically assaulting a woman.
Well, I was in Chicago, 19-year-old young little brother, went there to try to come to our headquarters to get some training to become what I wanted to be, which was a helper in this cause in the ministry. So I went there to do it, and by doing so, I ended up working for one of our security companies there. And there was a brother in the projects that was beating a sister with some handlebars to a children's bicycle. And I seen it, and I went over to him to stop him, and got in between him and her, and he swung trying to hit her, and I grabbed the handlebars, took them from him, and she took off running as we were tussling. He chased her down, ended up going up to the floor where she lived, and I had told my partners that were on security that they were coming. I made my way over there. When we got there, the brother was busting the windows out with a pole, this sister's apartment unit. And I came upstairs, and he was swinging the pole at a couple of the brothers that were doing security to get him away from him. So I came up, he didn't see me, I had on a trench coat, and I threw it over his face and just hit him and held him on the ground. But while I was holding him on the ground, the sister that he was beating came out and tried to stab me with a knife. So she got close to stabbing me, and I ended up getting her hand and knife and stopped, and then we left. And we went down several flights of stairs.
Real quick, you were FOI at the time?
Yes, sir.
So
I was
you were
FOI.
training then?
Yeah, I was FOI. Yes, sir.
Cool. Just want to make sure.
So I was in the ranks, and some of the brothers that were with me were as well. We came down the steps, and by the time we made it down there, there was a large amount of brothers that were part of this gang that were downstairs in the field waiting on us. So in my training, we don't run from, we run to the fight. So I'm walking toward this group, and I'm saying Allahu Akbar, God is the greatest. You've seen the movie Roots. In the movie Roots, whenever they wanted to get the strength to snatch the slave trader, pull him into the circle, take the keys to get free, the thing they said was Allahu Akbar. That's the chant of the Muslim to muster up divine strength to face a challenge. So I'm Allahu Akbar. I'm assuming everybody else is too. And I get there, and I'm by myself. And when I got there, I knew the brother. I was the supervisor for the company at that shift. So I knew the brother that was the shot caller of this gang. So we start talking, and he said, yeah, they tell you jumped my brother. I said, no, sir, nobody jumped your brother. I hit him and held him down. He was beating a sister with some handlebars. And he said, you ain't gonna believe what he told me. He said, that's his wife. I said, well, I wouldn't have thought that, and it don't make no difference. There was no reason for that. And I wasn't gonna let him get away with that. He told everybody, y'all stand down, don't nobody do nothing. And me and him start walking away. But while we were walking away, one of the people disobeyed his instructions and hit me in the side of the head with a baseball bat. So I got hit with a bat and turned around, and I was able to grab the brother that hit me with the bat. We went to the ground, and by then they had, whatever they had. They could have killed me. They had weapons to kill me, but they just beat me with poles, shovels, bats, bad. And I never was unconscious though, they say. And they was hitting me so hard that it woke up, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. It woke up the people in the projects. And the sisters that were in the projects ended up coming down and getting them off of me and called the ambulance. And I ended up going in the ambulance and went to the hospital, and they told me, I asked them when I was in there, I said, can I see a mirror? The nurse said, I'll have to check with the doctor. I said, you mean you got to check with the doctor before I can see myself? She said, yes. I said, man, I must be messed up. So I grabbed a little bag when she left and went over to the mirror. And I said, oh man, these must be some powerful drugs, because that can't be me. It was. I was that messed up. So I was split from here to here I had a scab going all the way across my face that had this eye closed, swollen. I was swollen and beaten. I was black everywhere, and but I healed in about 3 days, and so that's kind of in a nutshell. And by the grace of Allah, I was able to recover and went back over there to work. And some of them brothers that was involved end up working for us over time. One of the brothers that was over there end up being killed, and they tried to say we did it. So it created a little bit of a problem, but we were able to work through it. And some of them brothers end up becoming employees, and a couple of them end up joining the nation after the fact. But that's what happened, and unfortunately, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said this. He says 75% of my work is with the woman. There's a lot that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad invested in training our women to see the real value that they should have in themselves. See, whenever women really know their value, they'll stop giving men discounts. When the black woman really learns her value, she'll come off that clearance rack and get back behind the glass where the real valuable stuff is at. Everything you see behind the glass is more expensive, and you have to handle it with care. Whenever the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told our sisters that a nation can rise no higher than its woman, it began to increase the appraisal black women had of themselves. When he said that the mother is the first nurse, first teacher, first doctor, it began to raise their appraisal of themselves. When he said this, that there's no such thing as a no good woman, any no good woman was made that way by a no good man, that raises the appraisal of the woman to herself and should raise the appraisal of our women to us. He said, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that we should respect and protect the black woman. Well, if we're supposed to respect and protect her, she has to do the same for herself. So, the woman is not the second self of man per se. She really is the second self of God. And when our women really, really understand how valuable they are, your womb is the laboratory of God that He uses to bring into existence all of the inventors, the messengers, and the prophets that have changed the world. You are His instrument. When women really know their value like that, they'll never be okay being in a relationship where they're being beat and still think that the person beating them really loves them. When they really know their value, they'll demand of us the kind of respect that they deserve. And we won't have a situation where I got to step in and then you step in to try to hurt me for trying to help you. So that was a good sign to me and to us that we got a lot of work to do. Not only on making the black man respect our women like we should, but to make the black woman respect herself like she should.
I know in your work you had to be exposed to this, right? So I know with domestic abuse, it's kind of tied into economic abuse a lot. People don't want to talk about it because there's a financial dependency.
This is true.
But put that to the side, right? In this context, have you been exposed to women who don't believe a man doesn't love them unless he beats on them?
I would say that not he doesn't love me unless he beats on me. But there are many women that believe that he does love me in spite of the fact that he beats on me. And see, there's a verse in the Holy Quran that says this, and your wives to you are not as your mothers. But that has to also be told to the sisters. And sisters, you are not to be to your husband as their mother and them to be to you as your son. Because the nature of a woman is mercy, is compassion. Look at this, long suffering and nurturing. Those are the characteristics of God that females manifest naturally to help them to be constitutionally fit for the role of motherhood. But when you as a woman began to take those ingredients that make you constitutionally fit for motherhood, and you allow it to be too heavily influencing your role as a wife, then you will be in a situation where you could trick yourself into thinking that as a nurturer, if I just love them, if I'm kind enough to them, if I suffer long, at some point, he's going to change. After all, he did cry when he apologized. Yeah, so at a certain point, you have to know when you begin to think less of yourself, that this relationship has become very unhealthy to you. Your hair is falling out. You're gaining weight even though you're eating the same. You don't smile anymore. Whenever it's time to go home, you are having anxiety attacks on your way home. No, when you in the world, you're supposed to have anxiety. But when you on your way home, you're supposed to be feeling like I'm coming to my spiritual recharge center, where I can unplug from this no good, wicked, white supremacist world and come to a place that I call my home, which is a pure source of love, where I can come extract some peace and some power. You're not supposed to be worried. You're supposed to come to a place that relieves you of worry. So unfortunately, that nature of long suffering, patience, compassion, mercy, nurturing that was given to the woman for motherhood, sometimes it bleeds too much over into spousal relationships and causes her, in spite of the fact that somebody is consistently doing physical harm to you, emotional abuse, verbal abuse. No, you worth more than that. And you have to lay your foot down. And then, of course, you do run into that financial equation. That's why we have to become stronger in wealth, not just income. Income, what you earn by exchange of your time, a good product or service. Wealth, what you exchange of your money that keeps value or increases in value. Because if we had wealth, then the young daughter or the old daughter wouldn't have to worry about does she have somewhere to go. We would have enough that she would always have somewhere to go because I'm her uncle, I'm her father, I'm her brother. I don't have to worry about whether she's going to be able to put gas in the car. I got you covered because we got wealth now as a bloodline. So that is another equation that makes it more challenging to do so. But if a man, the messenger, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that if you have to beat a woman, you shouldn't have one. There's something wrong with you if the only demonstration of power that you have is physically or verbally abusing the one you're with. No, go show me how powerful you are by how big your business you can build is. Show me how powerful you are by how much love and time you can put into your community to raise up people that may not even be your blood family. Show me how powerful you are off of what you can create as an institution for your people. That's where power should be demonstrated, but not in the striking of a woman with a fist. No man should physically, verbally, or emotionally abuse a woman. That doesn't show that you're powerful. It really shows you're a punk.
A message to the black man, right? After our conversation, this is my first time actually reading it, so thank you for that. All right, so there's a section there, right? It's called Economic Program to Help Fight Against Poverty in One, right? Mm-hmm. I just want to read a excerpt from there. It says, it compels our people to clean their bodies as well as their houses until we enforce cleanliness among the people of the nation and get them into the spirit of self-respect and the spirit of making themselves the equal of other civilized nations of the earth. We will never be recognized as being fit members of any decent society of those nations, right?
Yeah.
For people listening before they make silly comments, I'm not saying every group has better hygiene than black people. I'm not saying that at all. I'm focusing on hygiene within our community as a base. A lot of times we talk about all this progress, and I think sometimes we forget like the basics.
That's right.
Hygiene and having a clean space.
Mm-hmm.
I taught in Philadelphia for years, and I don't know. I don't know if hygiene's a learned behavior. I don't know what's going on, but a lot of people struggle with hygiene and they're not exposed to people who are clean, put together, brush their teeth. Like, you'll be shocked. A lot of the black boys don't see a black man who has proper hygiene.
Wow.
How important is just basic cleanliness and just moving forward as a person?
Well, first of all, cleanliness is not next to godliness. Cleanliness is godliness. So in that section on economics in the Message to the Black Man, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says a few paragraphs up, he says that we have to develop a committee of cleanliness. A committee of cleanliness that teaches, look, this is where teaches and forces our people to be clean. He said we already have such inside the nation. And what he was speaking of, that we have a function in our nation of an investigator. During that time, the investigator did not just look into violations of spiritual law infractions, but they actually would go to homes and knock on doors and investigate whether or not you was living clean or not. You know why? See, you cannot have organized thoughts in a disorganized environment. You cannot have clean thoughts in a dirty environment. The environment that we live in superimposes itself on our thought process. There's been multiple studies where they have found that the visual cortex, which is a part of the cerebral cortex in the brain, that's the first thing that starts reasoning, deduction, judgment. That's what the cerebral cortex does. But the first thing that feeds your judgment is what you see all the time. So whenever you're in an environment that is dirty and disorganized, now your visual cortex is feeding your judgment centers of your brain confusion, chaos. It makes you more stressed out. It produces tension. It even can cause depression. And I'm going to just say this, without not even having to quote no scientific, have you ever noticed that a clean car runs better? It really don't, but it seems like it, don't it?
It's a better experience.
As soon as you get your car washed, don't let you wash it and clean the rims and wet your tires. You start driving it like it seems a little quieter than it normally. The engine seems a little faster than what it's normal. It seems, but that's the effect of just cleanliness. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to us that in order for us to be successful, we have to be quick thinking, fast moving, clean inside and out, right down to the modern times. So he promotes then and we promote now cleanliness, and not just bathing, but he put inside of our guiding rules that we should bathe at least once a day. See, bathe once a day. So you got some of us, like you said, some of us have to be told this. And you notice that when you clean yourself up and you clean your home up, you feel better. You're more at peace. Why? Because clutter produces worry, tension, depression, stress. Cleanliness relieves stress. It causes calm, ease, lets tension off of you, and makes you have access to creativity. So without being clean, we won't be as successful as we could be. And that's clean body, clean mind. That's what you put in your mind and your mouth. The food you eat, the thoughts you think, outside of your body should be clean. The place you call your home, even if you don't own it, so what? You rent it, so what? It's yours right now. Keep it clean, keep it organized, because you can't have organized thoughts in a disorganized environment. When you get inside your car, it should be clean. Shouldn't be a box of chicken and chicken wings in the seats and pop and stuff everywhere and bottles, and it shouldn't be and you'll be surprised at how much better and how much more you'll get done when you clean inside, outside, your mind, your body, your home, your car, and live like that, and watch how much better life will be for you.
You know, when I got into real estate, like renting properties, an old head told me when prospective tenants come to the property, walk them back to their car.
Look at that.
Because how they keep that car is how they're going to keep your place. And
Look
he
at
wasn't
that.
lying.
Wow. See the math, and see that there's a saying that how you do anything is how you do everything. So you can't tell me that you are clean and you won't keep your house clean, or you are clean but you won't keep your car clean. No, whatever is under your control. And didn't God say, if you are faithful over little, I will make you a ruler over much? Well, part of being faithful is taking care of what you have. So whatever we have, we should make sure that it's clean, that it's operating, that it's cared for. Why? Not because the people is watching you, but God is watching you. Cleanliness is godliness, and he's looking to see, all right, I blessed you with this kind of spot. I bless you with these resources. I bless you with this car. Let me see how you handle it. And if he sees you taking good care of it, isn't that how you are as a parent? You get your child something that they wanted and you see them taking good care of it, keeping them clean, keeping it neat, organized. You say, man, I love the way that they always take care of their stuff. You don't have no problem giving them more because of how they handle the little. Well, that's how the God is looking at us. So cleanliness is godliness. And the committee of cleanliness, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he used the term teach and then force. So we have to go in our community door to door, and we do this. And you'll be surprised how much better your example teaches than your explanation. See, once somebody sees you, they are already analyzing you. Clothing is language. What does your clothes say? See, when first impressions are what? Lasting impressions. What kind of impression did you make on the person that you came in contact with? Do you know most people we meet, we never will have a conversation with, but we will see them. So how do we carry ourselves? So once we take on that spirit of being clean inside and out, right down to the modern times, we're setting ourselves up for a foundation of success. You'll find that you have less stress the cleaner you are, less tension, less confusion. You feel better, you're freer, you have more energy at your disposal. Your visual cortex will feed your cerebral cortex, and your judgment will be better when you're looking around at something clean, neat, organized. Even if it's not nice, if it's neat, it can be more effective on your mind than something that is nice but dirty. Try it out and see if it doesn't work. Today, try it out. Clean. Say today I'm going to make sure that the inside, the outside of my automobile, the inside, the outside of my home is going to be clean. I'm going to keep myself clean. Put on clean clothes, clean food goes in my body. Just try it out for a week and watch how much better you feel and how much more you get done. So they've done a study on body language. You know, most people think that psychology affects physiology, but physiology also affects psychology. They found that if you are somewhere listening to something and you sit like this, physically, you become psychologically disinterested. But if you sit like this, even if you're not interested, just by physiologically leaning forward, sitting on the edge of your seat, your mind becomes interested. You can be sad, but if you force yourself to smile, you'll find that your smile will become a curved line that can straighten out your thinking. It's impossible for someone to sneeze and keep their eyes open. Just like it's impossible to sneeze with your eyes open, it's impossible for you to even smile and stay in a gloomy state. So all that's saying is that we can't always wait on our psychology to be right for us to do what we should do physically. Sometimes we just got to make ourselves do what's right physically. And instead of waiting to feel good to do good, no, do good and make yourself feel good. Instead of waiting on the spirit to move you, no, get up and move the spirit. And you'll be surprised how much authority you have over yourself. I tried this out the other day just to see if it would work. I was thinking a thought that that was bothering me. And I said, I'm just going to try this out. Because, you know, the scripture says that God gave us power and dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, and every creeping thing that crawls on earth. In the Holy Quran, in Surah 14, it says that God made subservient to man the ships, the seas thereof, sun, moon, stars, and everything between the heavens and the earth is all subservient to man under my authority. I said, well, thoughts live in between the heavens and earth. So I was thinking something that was making me feel bothered. And I said this, mind, go find me a better thought. And it went and found me a better thought, but it was general. I said, no, find me a better thought that's on the same subject, but opposite of it. And do you know my mind went and found it? Guess what I did? I was on the Stairmaster and I just bust out laughing at myself. Because I literally found that you can take authority over your own mind. So I'm saying that to say to us, don't let environment dictate. No, you're not a creature of the environment. You are the creator of the environment. You're not subject, you're object. Don't wait for the Spirit to move you. Move the Spirit. Don't wait to feel good to do good. No, do good. Make yourself feel good. If you ain't feeling up, you feeling down, you bothered, you depressed, therefore I'm going to be dirty. No, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling depressed, therefore I'm going to get clean and organized so that I can feel better. And you'll find that your physiology can affect your psychology just as much as your psychology can affect your physiology.
So there's another excerpt from Message to the Black Man I wanted to touch on, right? It's in the section called the Economic Blueprint, where he focuses on criticism. It says, stop wanting criticisms of everything that is black owned and black operated.
Yes.
I think this is a humongous problem because I have seen, right, people, you have your store next door, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have an off day for whatever reason. Something's a little extra toasted. They put it on Yelp and they just go berserk on it mostly because it's black owned, right?
That's right.
But my thing is that I don't understand is Verizon could be overcharging you.
Come on now.
Every month. And all these other things that are taking place and no one has a problem with it. And it's like, I understand there are a lot of issues that go into it. I just want to hear your thoughts. Is it just self-hate? Is it hating? Is it ignorance? What is going on here?
It's D all of the above. See, we got to stop this negativity. I mean, negativity. Now, you know that. I know that's not a dictionary, but you know what I mean. Negativity is a special type of negative that only black people do to one another. It's a reason why the scripture calls us as a people the lost sheep. You know, sheeps are merciful to the wolf, merciful to the shepherd boy, merciful to the dog that gathers them together and runs them into the fence. But they are hard on each other. That's how we are. You, just like you said, you can see every year on the news one of these pizza restaurants caught a driver putting some extra sauce on the pizza. And I wasn't talking about tomato sauce. And you get on there, you talking about, oh, that's nasty. I ain't never gonna order that. And then 2 weeks later, your DoorDash man back at your house with the pizza again. But you go to a black-owned restaurant and let them short you one hush puppy. And the first thing you say, this is why I don't like doing no business with no nigga. You can't do no business. I ain't never going back again. And we'll tell everybody, go on Yelp, give them 1 star, rate them, and that we're hard on one another. But we're very merciful on our enemy. So the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in this, it's a 5-point program on our economic blueprint. He talks about at the top, working together in a collective manner, being in unity. Second, he said, pool our resources financially as well as physically. Then the third thing he says is stop wanting criticism of everything that's black owned and black. The word wanting means unjustified or malicious. Stop being so hard on your brothers and your sisters. Listen to this. This should be our mantra for black economics. See, we talked about the wealth that we had. 8th richest nation in the world, right? But watch this. Do you know in the Jewish community that a dollar remains in their community 7 to 10 times, circulates 7 to 10 times before it leaves? In the Asian community, they keep their money among them for 28 to 30 days, Jews 17 days, Latinos 14 days, but in the black community, we only keep our dollar with each other for 3 to 6 hours. Our dollar does not circulate 7 to 10 times like the Jews or the Asians. Our dollar circulates 1/10 of one time, meaning our dollar barely, that means as soon as we touch our money. Wait a minute. If we only keep our money 3 to 6 hours, most of us get direct deposits. And we get direct deposit on Friday while we at work. We work 8 hours, so 3 to 6 hours, that means before we even got off, the white man got our money back again. Something wrong with that mathematics. So our mantra has to be, shop with your brother before you shop with another. And listen to this, brother. If we start saying, what do I want? What do I need? What do I like? Now, I got my list. Where in the place do I live can I find black people to have this good product or service? Make my list. That's where I'm spending my money. If I can't find them here, I'm going to go online and find somebody I can order it online. If we did that, then we would be able to keep our dollar in our community. Do you know what happens whenever a dollar circulates? See, if I have a grocery store, you have a shoe shop, someone else has a school, someone else has a dry cleaner. I give you money for your, what did you have? Shoe shop, right? But I'm the grocery man. You got money for the shoes, but guess what? Your baby's got to go to school. So now you give some of the money I gave you from the grocery store to the shoe shop. Now that dollar is transferred over and it goes to the school. The school got to go to the cleaners to clean all the uniforms and the suits that they have to wear to teach. And so that dollar that I gave you ends up going to them at the school. School ends up giving it to the cleaners, but everybody at the cleaners has to eat. So now they got to come bring my dollar back to me at the grocery store. That's one time. So 7 times circulate means that we are able to take the same little and make it appear like a lot, because I'm really giving you the currency when you need it and you give it to them when they need it, but we're always exchanging it with one another, so we're able to really live off of a little and make it look like a lot. But the minute that we get our money, as soon as we get it, it goes back into the hands of our enemy. And make no mistake about it, I know you can say Target and the Walmart, none of these people didn't do nothing. They're not the victims. They're not the ones that commit police brutality. Yeah, but corporate America is white supremacy's bloodline. It's the fuel system of white supremacy. If you withhold your dollar, white supremacy will cease to exist. Look at what happened in 2015 at the University of Missouri whenever the football players, they didn't like the president of the university. You know what they said? We ain't playing till y'all get rid of the president. They missed 2 games and missed millions. What you think happened? Within 3 days, president's gone. See, I'm saying that to say that you know, we used to say hit them where it hurts. Well, the only thing that hurts in this world is the pocket. So we have to start, anytime we have a complaint or a problem with something going on in the total system of white supremacy, we have to start boycotting, withholding our dollars. Now, after we engage in a white boycott, we have to, on the other side, engage in a black boycott, where we start distributing our resources to each other. And I'm saying if we would be willing to shop with our brother before we shop with another, that means drive a little bit farther and pay a little bit more to give somebody that looks like you your dollar, so we can keep it in our community and they can reinvest in it like you do to make our neighborhoods better, then we will be able to be back on top again. But stop the criticism. Stop being so hard on one another. We've got to be more merciful toward one another. We don't get the same privileges that our white counterpart gets. We just seen on the news where they caught a whole city think it was, I can't remember exact city, but they showed how they took all the white pictures down, or the black pictures down out of a house and put white pictures in, and all of a sudden the property was appraised for way more money. Yeah. Same house, same agent selling it. They put a white face on it, white people's pictures. Now it's worth $100,000 more. When we go to the bank as a people, they'll give us a $100,000 loan for an education that won't work after we go to school. They'll give us another $80,000 for a new truck that's going to depreciate as soon as we drive it off the lot. They'll give us $250,000 for a plastic house in the community. But let us go to that same bank and ask them for a small business loan. All I want is a $20,000 small business loan. You mean tell me you gave me $80,000 for an Escalade, $250,000 for a plastic house, and you gave me $100,000 for an education to give me a degree that won't work, but I can't get a small business loan for $20,000? So we have to be more understanding of the fact that we are people that got to work twice as hard to get half as much. So when our brothers and sisters go into business, we don't have the same support system as our white counterpart, so we got to be more merciful to one another.
And we don't have the same access to clientele, because not only other races, ethnic groups don't want to deal with you, you got a large portion of black people who don't want to deal with you.
And that's the self-hatred.
It's so much smaller than another business.
Right. And of course, the less the client base, the less the income. The less the income that comes in, the less the profit you have to make improvements with, to hire more people with. So the whole infrastructure suffers because of the self-hatred. Now, shop with your brother before you shop with another is a mantra we have to teach and accept, but no other people have to even say it. It just comes natural. Asians shop with Asians. Is this true? Jews shop with Jews. Indians shop with Indians. White people shop with white people. But black people don't shop with black people. We shop more with white people than we do them. We used to say back in the day that we think that the white man's sugar is sweeter and the white man's ice is colder, even though it came from the same water and the same earth as ours. So we think that we're getting something better when we get it from them than when we get it from our own. We got to change that mentality. We have to change that mentality, and we have to stop the unjustified, malicious criticism of one another. Let's be more merciful on one another, understanding that just like I'm catching hell and it's hard for me to survive, I know it's the same for you. So I'm going to, if it took you 8 more minutes longer, I'm not going to complain. If it was not as warm as I wanted it to be, I'm not going to complain. And if I do complain, I'm definitely not going to complain to the public.
Be done in a constructive manner. That's how you know things are genuine. Like if I had an issue with you, I would call you or reach out.
That's right.
I'm not gonna go online and say nothing crazy.
That's right. And I have a little list that I made that I try to propagate, but it talks about rules of dealing with black business, and one of them is if I do have a problem, I'll speak to you directly and not tell anyone else. 2, I also, not only would I support the business, but I would teach my children to do the same thing. See, that's the kind of spirit we have to have if we want to turn our colonies into communities. We have to start looking out for one another and love to see each other successful. Because guess what? I may not have the business now, but one day I will. And if I treat you in your business right, when I get mine, guess what you're going to do? Treat me and mine right. And the next thing you know, networking is done on a mass scale, and we're able to lift each other up out of the mud of poverty if we support one another and stop complaining and criticizing so much.
Brother Nuri Muhammad, thank you so much again.
Man, thank you, Brother Linton. It's been my honor and my privilege, and always blessed to share space and time with you. And I pray that we can give all of the viewers some news that they can use.